Toki Pona, Miyan Natalia. So I did a survey on animal words in Toki Pona, nimi, soweli, Toki Pona, because I wanted to know this. So Sona Pona lists the following edge cases. So there's armadillos. Are they akasi or soweli? So they're mammals, they're land animals, but they're kind of scaly. So maybe they're akasi because they're not that cute. Elephants as well is listed on the animal page on the on Sona Pona. For the same reason, are they akasi or soweli? Because they're kind of scaly a bit. They've not really got fur. They're sort of they've got thick skin. Ostriches and emus. Are they waso or are they soweli? So they're birds, of course, but they don't fly. They live on the land. They run around and bury their head in the sand, but they don't fly. And penguins as well. Are they waso or are they kala? Again, they're birds, but they don't really. Well, they can't fly. They walk around on the land and they swim a lot in the ocean. So I wanted to know if this was true. I asked in Mapona, and nobody seemed to know if anyone had done any survey or anything on this, so I decided to do one myself. So, I made the survey. I posted this on the Toki Pona Reddit. I posted it in Sona Kudapu Toki Pona Tasso in Mapona Pi Toki Pona on Discord. And I asked people who follow me on Bluesky to follow. So I presented a list of about 40 animals. I'm not going to talk about all of them because some of them aren't that interesting. They're what you would expect people to say. But I am going to talk about some that I did think were pretty interesting. The default options that I gave were kala, soweli, akesi, pipi, yan, kiete santakalu, and waso. You could select as many as you want, and you could write your own answer in as well. And there was also an option for misona ala. Okay, so the first one I put was the elephant. So Sona Pona says that the elephant could be considered akesi because it's, scaly, skinny, it doesn't have like fur, it's not particularly cute. This doesn't seem to be true. I should say before, I got 93 replies to my survey from people of all different abilities levels of Toki Pona. So yeah. So first of all, the elephant. 3% of people called this akesi. Everyone but one person said this was soweli. So I don't think that what Sona Pona says is necessarily true. In fact, twice as many people called it yan as called it akesi. So the elephant's pretty smart. I can see why people would call it yan. So the next case was the armadillo. This one was slightly more controversial. 90% of people said that this was soweli, and 20% said it was akesi. So that's a lot more people saying it was akesi than they did with the elephant. But still, that's not very common that people would describe this as akesi. You can see that it has scales. It's got like a shell kind of thing. I don't really know very much about armadillos, to be honest. There's one in the zoo. It's very cute. Nearly suia. But most people did not think this was akesi. So next was the ostrich. So I did not put the emu as well because I felt that ostriches and emus were so similar that it didn't really make a difference. So 93% of people said this was waso. 34% said it was soweli, which was a lot less than I was expecting to say it was soweli. I thought there would be more people who said this was soweli. Obviously, it has wings, but it doesn't fly. And many definitions that I've seen of waso are flying animal. We'll talk about this a bit more when we get onto the bat. 2 people wrote in the nimisin wasoweli from waso and soweli. This also showed up for the penguin as well, which we'll get to in a minute. At the end, I will also talk about the nimisin that people used in this in the survey. So next is the penguin. Now, 88% of people thought this was waso, which I thought was way more than I thought it was going to be because the penguin, it can't fly at all. I thought it was going to be maybe like 60% would say waso. This was just a complete guess. I've never seen any data on this before. It was a complete guess. 28% of people thought it was soweli, and 34% said it was, I've made a mistake here, 34% said it was kala, not waso. 8% of people said this was yan, maybe because it stands on two legs and kind of has a similar sort of body shape to yan. I don't know why that would be. And again, 2 people said wa soweli. So, is what Sona Pona says true? Mostly. With the exception of the elephant, which was pretty uncontroversial. There was a not insignificant amount of people who said that, the penguin was kala, the penguin was soweli. The armadillo as well, people said it was akesi as well as soweli, and the ostrich as well, people said this was soweli, but mostly waso. In these cases, though, what I thought was kind of interesting was that people described the animals according to what they biologically are, whether they're a mammal, whether they're a bird, not along the lines of, definitions that are sometimes given for soweli and waso and kala, which are land animal, flying animal, and marine animal, which I thought was kind of interesting, and that this was true of these cases. However, the whale was much more likely to be kala than soweli. Almost everyone said that the whale was kala, and only about a quarter of people said it was soweli, which isn't what we just saw with the previous cases. This is a mammal, but the vast majority of people, I think only one person said that, or didn't say that this was kala. The gorilla is soweli according to the vast majority of people, but 41% said it could be yan as well, because it's very person-like as far as non-human animals go. The gorilla is very, very much like a person. The pangolin, which I thought would get more akesi than soweli, was basically the same as the armadillo. So most people thought this was soweli, but there was sort of about 30% of people who said this was akesi. By the way, I will post in the description a link to the results of the survey if you'd like to see, if you'd like to have a look. It'll be there for you to have a look at. All the data will be in there, including all of the extra responses that people gave and so on. So, one I thought that was pretty interesting was the bat. Now, when I was learning Toki Pona, I learned Toki Pona from Jan Kekan-san's course, and in episode, I want to say 7, Jan Kekan-san says that a waso is a bird, but it can also be a flying animal like a bat. And this is an edge case that I was surprised wasn't mentioned on Sona Pona, so I decided to see what people said. Now, roughly the same amount of people said it was soweli versus waso. So about 3/4 of people said it was soweli, about 3/4 of people said it was waso. What I thought was kind of interesting, though... Oh, also, I should preface this by saying that I added bat later into the survey. I simply forgot it. So this only has 28 responses instead of the 90 responses that all of the other ones. So take these data points with a pinch of salt. But what I thought was interesting was that beginners, people who rated their Toki Pona proficiency as beginner level, were more likely to call it soweli. So 80%, give or take, people who were beginners said that it was soweli, and only 50 said it was waso. But what I thought was interesting is that the better people's Toki Pona gets, the more likely they are to call this waso. Actually, everyone who said they were expert or fluent said this was waso, and not all of those people said that it was soweli, which I thought was kind of interesting. Some people said it was soweli waso, some people said waso soweli, which, fair enough. I think I personally would call it probably waso soweli. 2 people said it was yan. I think one person replied with yan to every single response on this data. So yeah, go figure. Okay, next we have the cow. And I learned something new here. So 96% agreed that a cow was soweli, which I think is fairly uncontroversial. But 20% of people said it was mani. Now, I didn't know that the word mani could mean cattle, so I've learned something new from this. One person said that it was, in their view, technically mani, but they disagreed with using that word for animals, which I think is quite interesting because using the word mani reduces possibly the animal to just an item, something to be used in a transaction. A definition for mani that's given is cattle. I would, if I were going to do this survey again, knowing that, I would put in maybe sheep and goats as well and see how many people said mani for those. I wonder if people would reply len for sheep. That could be interesting. But yeah, no, I learned something new from that, which I thought was pretty cool. So next, crabs and lobsters. So they had more or less the same responses. 3/4 of people said they were kala, about half said it was pipi, and just under a quarter said they were akesi. The lobster was slightly more kala than the crab. I think because lobsters can kind of swim, I think. Whereas crabs, you're more likely to see them sort of on the shore, maybe in rock pools, on the beach maybe. I know that I used to scuba dive when I was younger. I know I've never seen a crab underwater, but I have seen lobsters underwater. But again, I've never seen a lobster on the land, so maybe this is why the lobster is more kala and the crab is more akasi. Next, we have something a bit scary. Monsuta. 89% of people said the dragon was akesi, and 36% said it was waso. Now, I included the dragon because I read a conversation quite recently in Mapona Toki Pona where people said that the dragon was more likely to be waso because it can fly than it was to be akesi. But here, most people, the vast majority of people said it was akesi, and only about a third of people agreed that it could be waso, which is, I thought was mildly interesting. Nili monsuta tawa mi. These guys, sea snakes, I don't like them. They are scary. A lot of them are really venomous, I think, and I don't know. I don't like them. But most people said this was kala, so 4/5 of people said this was kala because it swims, and 60% said it was akesi. Now, going by the definitions of kala being a marine animal and akesi being sort of a non-cute animal, this sort of makes sense. But when people have said that, things like, what was it now? The bat. It's not very cute. No one said this was akesi, I think it's kind of interesting how possibly people are only willing to think of something being akesi if it's sort of a little kind of, a snake is a reptile, isn't it? I mean, there's not really anything akesi about this other than the fact that it's sort of scaly. It doesn't live on land like most of the akesi that are given, sort of, land snakes and lizards and frogs perhaps and that sort of thing. I mean, I think maybe people would only call this akesi because it's so similar to a land snake. I would love to know what people think about this. Please let me know in the comments how you think about this. But obviously because it swims, most people called this kala. I as I say, I don't like sea snakes. They are scary. I'm very glad we don't get them where I live. So yeah. Next we have the most controversial one of all. Coral. Nili seme mi sonala. So the most popular response to this was kasi, or a variant of kasi. There was kasi soko, kasi kiwen, this kind of thing, kiwen kasi, which I thought was interesting. I didn't put kasi as one of the options. This was something that people wrote in, and I thought that was pretty interesting. 39% of people said it was kala, but someone replied and said it was kasi, and they didn't want to call it kala because it doesn't move. Coral, sits in one place, maybe an anemone sort of, it moves with the current or whatever, but it doesn't swim, it doesn't move. And I thought it was kind of interesting that almost 40% of people said it was kala, even though it doesn't move. It is basically, functionally a plant. Obviously biologically it's not a plant, but in terms of the sort of way that people think about animals, I mean, coral is not very animal-like. It's not like a cat, it's not like a fish. It's unmoving, isn't it? It's more like a plant. 21% of people said kiwen, which is kind of interesting because kiwen in general is a hard thing, a rock maybe. It's something that's not alive. Which obviously coral is alive, which is kind of interesting. 17% just said they didn't know, which fair enough. Misona al hakin. It's a strange one. I thought the responses to this were quite good. Next, we're going to talk about Kietes and Takalu. So there were 4 animals that I put in that I thought people might respond with Kiete santakalu. So obviously the most common is the raccoon. 93% of people said raccoon was Kiete santakalu, which is pretty uncontroversial. The red panda was also pretty Kiete santakalu. 58% of people agree with that. About a third of people said the lemur was, but someone really wasn't happy about this. They said nili Kiete santakalu ala. They really weren't happy about this. Nili pona ala tawaona. And I put an otter as well, which got 13%. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I wonder where the line is between, something being more Kiete santakalu than not. The raccoon was the only one of these that got more Kiete santakalu responses than soweli. So perhaps people are less likely to consider it a soweli, which is kind of interesting because, it is kind of a subcategory of soweli. It's a cute, fuzzy land animal, which is, kind of interesting to see that people would more consider it a Kiete santakalu as an entire separate category rather than a subcategory of soweli. So people use some nimi. Here are the ones that people used. Kisa. 3% of people said a cat was kisa. 100% of people said it was soweli. But 3% of people said it was kisa as well. Wasoweli was, as we've discussed, used for ostrich and penguin. 2% of people said that. Molusa, which is a nimi, which I didn't know about, for mollusks. Snail, 5%. Octopus, 1%. Earthworm, 1%. It's kind of interesting how this is different. I would have thought that an earthworm would get the same as a snail. Sort of slimy things that live in the garden. The platypus, 8% of people said this was sutopatikuna, which is a word that I personally don't really like. But there you are. And one person said this was Perry, from, Perry the platypus. At the end, I put in a section where you could put in any other edge cases that you might think, could go one way or the other. What we've got is amphibians, frogs, toads, and the like. I think people would very consistently say these were akesi, maybe akesi kala. That's kind of an interesting one, but I don't think it would be too controversial. Cartoon anthropomorphic animals, someone gave the example of Goofy. Are they yan? Are they soweli? Are they yan soweli? Soweli yan? They could be anything like that. Microorganisms like bacteria, which could be koyaki, something like this. Fungus was given as well. What do we think? Post in the comments, what do you think? Do microfungi, like the kind that might, when you have like mold growing in like your shower, like black mold, is that soko? Is that ko? What is that? Is it kosoko? What do you think? Sponges, I think these would sort of have the same responses as coral, to be honest. A mixture of kasi, kiwen, maybe kala. Tardigrades. Yeah, this one's weird. I wouldn't really know what people would say for tardigrades. I think I would call it like soweli lili mute, soweli pilili mute. I'm not really sure. I think that's kind of interesting. One person used this box to hit on me, which I thought was pretty funny. So you give me a call. You know where to find me. So yeah. Toki Pona. I'm happy. I thought this was a decent project. This presentation's kind of rough because I'm tired and my blood sugar's low, but whatever. Thank you for responding, everybody who did. Thank you for watching. Follow me on Bluesky. I'll put the link in the description. I mostly post in Toki Pona. It's mostly shit posts, to be honest, but if you like me complaining about my having to go to work in the morning in Toki Pona, then hey, you're welcome to subscribe. This is a new channel, but I want to make more Toki Pona content because I think it's fun. I like Toki Pona. I think it's great fun. I've had so much fun in the last couple of months while I've been learning Toki Pona. So yeah, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, please post a comment. Tell me what you think about some of the things we talked about in this video. The other edge cases. What do you think about coral? What do you think about nimi for new animals? I know there's this whole set called Isa and all this. I want to know what you think about this. I want to hear what people have to say. So yeah, thank you for watching. Yeah, I have been Jan Natalia. Sina Pona o Tawa Pona.